So we go from spending 50,000 a month to 100,000 a month in the span of weeks. When we started, we were doing about 120,000 a month. A month later, we do 368,000. So it just shows you how big of a lever CRO really is. When you do it right, it unlocks everything for you.
So we are joined today with Parker, one of my good clients. I'm gonna let Parker introduce himself and the brand that he's running real quick.
Yeah, my name's Parker Godfrey. I run Kiora Eyewear brand, luxury eyewear brand out of Southern California. We've been in business for about 2.5 years now, and we do about multiple seven figures per year, and just looking to grow and continue to, be on that trajectory every year.
Where you were at before you started working with us, and then kind of where you're at now, going into our third month working together.
Yeah. I mean, I started seeing a correlation with our brand. Like every time, we would have a good conversion rate on the day, we would be, netting over 20%, closer to 30%, but it was all over the place. I felt like we didn't have control of, the traffic that was coming, and we kind of left it up to, chance. And so what was happening is like one day we'd be at like a 1.2% or a conversion rate. And then another day would be at like a 2.5. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? I think, we didn't have control of it. So it would just naturally ebb and flow. And at that time I was like, okay, we really need to control what's going on with the traffic that's coming to the site. So I reached out to Josh and, had a goal for him and us to have a consistent ROAS above a 2. If we can do that, then the ability to scale on Facebook allows us to spend more and drive more traffic profitably, because every time someone comes to the site, they're going to be, the revenue per visitor is going to go up. Within weeks, we made some edits and did some pretty drastic changes and tests. First week, we did a price change, and, I was always stuck to, we need to keep our prestige of the brand up here and just have this price, but the issue is that the impulse purchase that Josh mentioned was under $120. And so we set the price to $119 and did a slash through price of $140. At that time, our AOV was around $145. And funny enough, we dropped the price and our revenue per visitor actually went up and our AOV stayed exactly the same. But the difference is we went from a 1.3 average ROAS or a conversion rate to a 2.5 within weeks. And so what that allowed us to do is now double the amount of ad spend that we had. So we go from spending, 50,000 a month to 100,000 a month in the span of weeks. And so that obviously changes the game with our brand, allows us to invest into more inventory and scale up. And I think a big unlock is CRO that a lot of people overlook. So I got to take my hat off to you, because it's allowed us to go to the next level. And it's always a work in progress, and having him on our side is cool, because, when you work constantly with somebody, you fire off a message, you get a reply right back, and you get implementation within days. So, speed is the biggest thing here, and they move quick, which is good.
That's awesome. And Parker's been one of our best clients, and honestly, like the client that we've seen the most growth, month over month. And he's like you're really a powerhouse. So, just being able to come in and focus on those levers that can really scale up a brand. But the most important thing is you already had, product market fit. You had a great product that, personally I wanted. Like as soon as we started working together, I was like, I need to get some sunglasses.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having a really good product, and then already, Parker had a ton of, the key components that allow, brands to scale. It's just about the organization and, running these proper CRO tests that allowed us to scale really rapidly together.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, I think people will probably want to know, like in terms of like monthly revenue before working with us, and then kind of where we're at now. I think that'll give them better context.
When we started, we were doing about 120,000 a month, and that was in February.
Mm-hmm.
And March, a month later, we do 368,000. So it just shows you how big of a lever CRO really is, because when you do it right, it unlocks everything for you. People are like, oh, you know what? Like, it's just going to become a higher ROAS, but like, you don't realize that you have your target ROAS, but when you can spend more at your target, it increases scale. So That's the biggest thing. And the other thing too is when you get into CRO work, I definitely recommend you not getting married to your instincts where you're like, oh, like I want to keep the brand prestige. So I want to set my prices up here. I don't want to charge for shipping. I don't want to do it's like follow the data. At the end of the day, you're running a business to make money. And if you find your winning offer and you find your winning pricing, stick to it because you have to listen to the market rather than listening to your gut or your perfect vision of the brand. Because if your brand's making money and profiting every single month, if you're staying in business and growing, it's just a matter of time until you get to some numbers that you couldn't fathom before.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what would you say, to somebody who's maybe pushing toward 6 figures a month with their own brand and they're kind of a little bit stagnant? What was something that you learned from, the past 2 going on 3 months working together that, you wish you had known, beforehand?
Well, team and leverage is really everything. And if you can have the right people in your corner, your chances of success are going to be way higher. Also, again, it really just goes back to the data. It starts with the right creative and the right offer, which is what working with Josh also helps us with is like once you really dial in that offer that people resonate with, run it on Facebook, run it on TikTok, have that be your, top of funnel messaging, letting people know and broadcasting this message that, hey, this is the deal we're running. And then having the congruency on the website with CRO is what takes it to the next level. So the congruency from the top all the way to the bottom is a clear message for people to not get confused because, everyone's getting bombarded with ads. So you have to make it very simple and clear, but also the back end has to be robust for that to be simple and clear. And so, having someone on your team who can handle all the edits to the site, make it really clear and make it easy rather than you as the business owner trying to wear all the hats and go through making edits to your website. And then you run into an issue and you're reaching out to someone on Fiverr. It's like, pay the extra money. It'll pay for itself. You'll be able to scale up and it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think one thing that is also why I structured the agency like this is, people might not know this, but we not only do CRO for Parker, but we also do a lot of the website designing, development, the building. So it's kind of a full service thing, to the point where it's like my team can implement not only design changes, but also design changes that positively impact the conversion rate, AOV, building up the brand. So it's really nice, some people don't really, well, maybe it's just my agency, but some people go into CRO and they think that it's just about, running tests, but it's really about the full funnel, understanding what ads we're sending to the website and how that impacts how we're going to get them to convert. Because two different pieces of ad content, they require a very different website experience, a different consumer journey to be able to, scale and scale up these ads. What is like a common misconception of CRO?
Well, yeah, I feel like a lot of people just run tests and they don't really go to the foundation of what CRO really is. And like what the foundation is people are getting impressions of your ads and then they land on your page. When they land on your page, it's another form of advertising. It is advertising. You're conveying information that needs to answer all their questions so they logically don't have a reason to say no. And so if you can cover every reason why they don't want to purchase, then it logically makes them think I have no reason not to buy. If it's something they want or it solves a big problem for them, the goal with CRO really isn't just like finding price changes and finding, shipping tests and things like that, but instead, what is the message and the information that we can convey on the page in a way that doesn't look confusing and is very visually appealing to like digest a lot of information in the simplest way possible. So that's something that's, the most important I see, and that other agencies have been really, focused on tests rather than like the design. Because when you're building a brand, like a real brand, not just like a drop shipping store, there needs to be the balance between brand and direct response marketing. So people get bought into the life of who you are. And so working with Josh has been able to allow us to do that, which is good, and still convert at a higher level.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think a lot of brands that I've, came in and worked with. It's the shift from product attributes to an emotional response to what the product does for the customer. And I sent this in Parker's Loom. I always do like little Loom audits before, I start working with any clients. And that was one of the first things. Like Parker had all of the, product market fit. He had all of the key components, but there was just like this lacking in emotional connection, which, as everybody knows, like you have to, people are emotional buyers, so you have to appeal to their emotions and why the product is, emotionally beneficial. What does it really do for them? Not just, okay, this sunglass has better memory frame or whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
So thank you, Parker, for your time. I appreciate it very much.
You got it. Yeah, I'm stoked to be working together. So
more results coming soon. We'll do this. We'll do another one in a year, and we're gonna be 8 figures, maybe.
Hopefully, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
it's
doable. It's
doable.
doable.
Figure out these tariffs.
Yeah, that's facts. Cool. Sweet, man. Thank you so much, Parker. I really appreciate it.
You can bleep out that F word at the end.
Okay.